Objection handling. This is a hot topic in sales all the time. And it really is something that is so dependent on the situation that it really matters on who you're talking to, what you're talking about, their company, who they are, where they fit in, before you really kind of come up with an objection handling strategy. So the key is to be prepared. And let's face it, are you really going to hear unique on every sales call? Typically you hear the same things. So guess what? Be able to prepare of your customer base. Trying to use someone else's canned objection handling techniques will probably fail because they're too generic. You got to really understand your customer base. Talk to the other people who have done this before. How do you prevent that objection? If you're the high-cost provider, you explain that you're the Cadillac of the industry, the Mercedes-Benz of the industry, and the benefits of that. If you're the low-price provider, then you explain why they don't need all this extra stuff, that you have 99% of what they need, and the 1% doesn't matter. So what you really got to do is understand, what objections do you hear? We all hear the same types of things. You're not interested. Well, guess what? You never get to the point of where they need to tell you they're not interested. You build rapport before this. Great way to I never hear I'm not interested, because I never push hard enough to have anybody prompt this. I qualify them with questions and ask them about or give them examples about other people. The next big one is, it costs too much. Well, this one usually you need to ignore because they don't understand the value of it. So you have to provide the value before this can even raise, so the cost is never an issue. And maybe next time, this is kind of the delay. Well, then you have to first explain why now is an important time to take action before they even come to this conclusion. So there's kind of three basic ways of handling objections. The first is to ignore it. This is typically when somebody is raising an objection just to raise an objection. You change the topic, you refocus them on something that is more important. And this is a real art to know when you should ignore an objection, because sometimes it's just them saying something. And you should never get to the point where people really are raising objections. You should naturally progress people through a decision-making process in a conversation, not a pitch and respond. When you get into a pitch and respond, that's it. You pitch, they give objections, you handle the objections, and then you try and close. That doesn't work anymore. You got to get into a conversation where you're talking about problems, possible solutions, how other people have solved it. So the first technique, you have to know when to ignore an objection. This is when people are just, I'm not interested, not now, costs too much. This means you've moved too fast, and you really should take a step back and rebuild rapport and then explain more. The next and probably best way is to listen. Help me understand that. If it's a legitimate objection, become the curious Columbo detective to understand what's really raising that. Is it legitimate? Is it really the cost? Is it really the timing? Or are they just the wrong person? Or do they not understand the problem or don't have the problem you solve? Then they're just not qualified. And then you can typically tell a story about how other people have gone through this journey and came to a different conclusion and then had a different benefit than they did. What is the outcome that they want, and how do you guide them to get that outcome in the context of who they are and where they fit into the decision-making process? If you'd like to learn more about sales and just hear someone else talk about sales, check out the podcast, The Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. If you like this, please rate it with a big thumbs up, give a comment, and subscribe if you'd like to get more. Thanks for listening.